You are now listening to the I Think I Love My Wife podcast. And this is your best friend's best friend, Chidozie Okafor, ready to take you on another journey. Are you with me? Because I'm ready. Let's get it. This episode is sponsored by Nello Effect, a coaching and consulting service that helps people turn mindfulness into action as they navigate the dating world as well as their relationships. Follow on Instagram at nello.effect and find more information in the episode description. Welcome to another episode of I Think I Love My Wife. And today I have the pleasure, I don't know if it's a pleasure yet, we'll see how today goes. I have the opportunity to bring these knuckleheads to the podcast, each who have been on the podcast. Paul from season 1, Jomar from season 2, and Brandon from season 1, very first 2 episodes.
Season 1, episode 1, let's go.
Well, that was Brandon.
Talk, right?
And so on this episode, the tables have turned. If you guys didn't know, I'm engaged. And so the demand has been that I need to be interviewed and put in the hot seat. So I brought some friends around to ask me the tough questions and see where we go. So I'll kick it off to you guys. You want to introduce yourselves?
Paul Brown, season 1, episode
In the middle.
in the middle, and the end.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Jomar Sharp, season 2, somewhere in there. Check it out.
Brandon Lewis, season 1, episode 1, 2, and
That's it.
that was it. Yeah, it wasn't a
The
3-parter.
The founder.
I have three parts of information, so it's cool.
I'm kicking
It's
off
cool
to you guys.
though.
I'm kicking off to you guys. So you guys hit me with the questions.
Paul, you hit him with the first question. You in charge.
I'm in charge.
You the old head here.
All this time, y'all.
You was born in 1985. You know what
You
I'm
told
saying?
us we can only ask certain questions, so we just,
Can you guys begin?
Okay, we're ready.
here.
Let's
We're
go.
here.
You know we're recording.
Yes, all this should be a part of it.
And this all should be a part of it. This is real.
So you say, go ahead.
Let's just start from the beginning,
Okay.
right? How long have you known your wife?
My fiance, I've known her for almost 2 years.
2
We
years.
met in April of 2022.
Can I have a follow-up?
Of course.
Just because I never noticed it until we got on this screen. I noticed that you had a ring on,
Hey.
but you're engaged. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure. What
Yeah.
do you want to talk about?
Tell me about it. Like you give us
How did
some
we
commentary
get here?
around the
We
ring.
get here.
Yeah.
This is a ring con. They're not sponsored, but it's a smart ring. It evaluates my sleep and all other things that I track. I always wanted one, and since I knew I would be getting a ring, I just got it in the size of my ring finger. And so now that I'm engaged, I'm just like, why? What we waiting on? You know,
Okay.
what we holding the show up for?
So is your sleep only important now that you're engaged?
No, just tracking it is.
Okay, good. Just
And I
want
don't
to
have
make
to wear my
sure.
watch now, pretty much.
Fair.
Okay.
Okay, so let's roll it back. Okay, so you've known your fiance for 2 years. How did you meet? Let's start there.
Shout out to Hinge. Dating apps are winning these days. We met on Hinge in April, early April, went on our first date before the end of the month.
Okay. Paid for version or the free version?
Oh yeah, I'm not paying for these apps. That's probably why I was on Hinge. You get the preview on Hinge to see who.
I get 60 days.
No. Hinge lets you see who liked you. So you get to see some of that. And I personally felt like Hinge had better quality people for Dallas.
Okay.
So when you look back on that experience, right, you obviously landed on someone who is going to be a game changer in your life. But when we go into those scenarios, we often think about dating apps and we often may have different expectations about what's going to happen coming out of those dating apps. So
It's a long-winded question.
does the
a good
outcome
question.
of the situation match what the input that you put into
The expectation.
creating and cultivating this potential for this relationship with
Why you
the beautiful
talking like
young lady that you are now engaged
You
to?
can talk normal on the podcast.
I am talking normal, fool. I'm trying to curate my question.
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you go into a situation with a dating app and there are certain levels of expectations around what's going to happen,
Yeah.
right? But coming out of this, you've landed on the ultimate outcome with the ultimate person. So is this what you thought was going to happen?
Did I think I was gonna meet my wife on a dating app? No,
So then why were you on a dating app?
because there's always the potential. Like I don't know that I came into the apps or we're on the apps to be like, oh, I'm gonna find my wife. However, it was just not the opportunity. Just like going out to meet someone that you could potentially vibe with.
Is there a game-changing moment where you recognize that, oh, this is more than just someone that I swiped left on, or excuse me, swipe right, I'm a left-hander, swipe right on, and you said, hey, this is a person that has potential for something bigger than what I'm thinking about?
I mean, I think if, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody, but if I get to the point where we've conversed enough to then go out on a date and the date went well, then okay, has potential to I won't say get to marriage, but to at least assess on see how real it is. I'm not one that ever rushed trying to be on the apps and go on a date fairly quickly, because you just don't know what you're gonna get on the app. So I don't prioritize it, and I take my time with it. And sometimes people didn't like my response time, and they fell off. But it didn't seem like it bothered her. So we were able to get to the point where I felt comfortable taking her out. I took her out. We had a good time. And then we proceeded.
Have you ever looked back on what those initial conversations looked like and evaluated and said, wow, there was something here that she may have said or something that I may have said that, looking back, it was a sign that this had more potential than previous interactions on dating apps or wherever?
I'm off the app, so I don't know what we said.
Okay. You didn't,
I don't know what we said on the apps. I
He
don't
said
know.
those messages.
you didn't
screenshot.
screenshot those messages? All right.
It's
All right.
supposed to be a part of your vows, brother.
All right. All right.
I will say this.
No,
The only thing that I can say that is remotely in relation to that is that when I was at your house one time, him and his wife beat my business.
Always.
Who are you talking to?
Yeah. Let's see what your options are.
And so,
I mean,
this wasn't the first time. Well, this was the first time you've
I
asked
say
me.
that. The reason why is because, I mean, for y'all, me and my wife met before apps even existed. So it's
Facts.
like, we don't even know what it's
Right.
like, how it's like.
Not
No, we were
around
right at
Facebook.
Facebook.
Right.
We were
Ain't
when
that
it was
old.
like,
Yeah, y'all old.
being official on Facebook.
So some of us want to see what the apps were
Yeah,
like,
so
want to
what
see
is
what
it?
it is. You do the same thing. Oh, let me swipe.
Yeah, because I was pre-apps too. Yeah, 100%.
So-
I was like, let's see what this button does. Yeah, no,
But they've asked me before, but for whatever reason, I was like, here, you guys can see. And so of the people I showed them or talked about, my wife Jury or fiance Jury, it's all the same to me.
Speak your
You
truth, bro.
know,
Speak
titles are not. I don't really care about titles.
Titles are fluid. Is that what
No,
you're
I'm just saying, like, wife, fiance, my behavior is the same, or how I treat her is the same. But Jury was one of the people that I showed them and
Until
went
you
through her
file
profile.
taxes.
Listen, I was trying to.
Right.
I was trying to. Listen, I was trying to see if I could file before December 31st. But apparently in Texas, if you file, it's an automated system, so you have to wait to get an appointment. There's no way to expedite it. So I learned that the hard way. Or we would have filed. I would have done something to file in 2023.
31st, 10
Yeah, so
p.m.
we will be filing 2024 government.
So when you saw her profile the first time, like, what was your thought process? What about it stood out for you when you saw it?
It wasn't that deep. I thought she was attractive. She was attractive enough for me, and she seemed like I would say in her profile, it seemed like she at least put some thought into it, and there was nothing that seemed like a red flag. So it was, why not?
So I do want to point out one thing, that you ain't telling the full story.
What's the full story?
So
Got him.
Own it.
Got him.
What's the full story?
Before we even got to the point of looking at the apps, you over at the house, she was like, y'all, I want to be intentional this year. I just want to make sure that, I'm dating intentionally and I'm not on these apps for whatever. Really, you were really subconsciously looking for a lifelong partner, more serious partner on the apps. Like, that's what you were telling us at that time.
Let me correct you. I think I've always valued marriage and thought marriage was something that I wanted. So it wasn't like that was something that all of a sudden I wanted marriage. I don't know that I looked at the real world and the app world to be just like desperate. I thought they were the same thing. Which is why I don't understand why people get mad at the dating apps and say it's trash. If that's trash, and the real world's trash too. But I do think that around that time, I think I took a break from the apps just because I knew I was really busy. I just moved back, and I was contributing to the trash experience that people were having on the apps. And so I got off it because I just wasn't in the space to really engage in a way that might be meaningful for someone. So around that time, I had just got back on the apps. And that's where that conversation came of me getting back on the apps and trying to be more intentional. The intentionality wasn't necessarily to the apps, but in my dating experience in general. Because I took, you can call a break from really, just investing in that area. Just because I had nothing was wrong, just had other priorities, and I wasn't able to give it the time that it required it to potentially get to somewhere serious.
Yeah.
I did make the interesting part is I just moved back.
No.
Yeah, I moved back. Well, I did just move back. I moved back the year before in 2021.
Yeah.
And with the intention to buy a house. So I was told, like, okay, the plan was to move back in April. I already signed my contract, put down the money. The house was supposed to be done in September of 2021.
Yeah.
Well, that was a lot. It wasn't done. It wasn't done. So
It's like April of 22.
yeah, it was. Yeah. And so that was the intentions. And so I was in this, I guess, dichotomy of I wanted to live my, rich uncle life with my new house and the benefits of having a new house and what came with that. But I also kind of made a promise to myself, if I did come across someone that I felt had potential, I wouldn't, try to do anything to delay the progress that we would make either.
Yeah, fair.
So that was the journey.
What do you love about her?
I think she's a good person. One of the things I appreciate about her the most is I felt from the beginning she was, we always say a good person, but I think generally she had a good heart. And what I value in our relationship, one is she allows me to be me. Some of that I think came from the standards and boundaries that I set in the beginning of our relationship, but she allows me to be me. She, the way she engages with my friends and my family is not one in which I feel like I have to be everywhere she is when we go out.
Yeah.
And to me, that was super important. Her getting along with my friends were important. Not like getting along, but she felt like she fit with the group. So it wasn't like, we got to go hang out with these people. So that was also a thing. I think
We all like her more than you.
that's fine.
Yeah.
And then let me go ahead and cut you right there because you said the word standards and boundaries.
I did.
All right.
She
And
knows he's staple.
Standards and boundaries, they're important.
All the way to
Tell-
season 1.
tell us more. You need to we need you to expound on standards,
Episode 1.
standards and boundaries.
That's true.
I'm consistent. No, so if we're gonna take it back there. So I took a break from, unless something happened, more random. I was not being proactive in dating. I took a break. I was just busy, and so when I started, I guess being willing to pursue women again, I was also told myself I was going to date differently, and part of that because again, why are you going to date differently? And my theory was that most people date the same way, and I don't know a world or a process which, with such a low success rate, why you would keep doing it the same way.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'm going to date differently. And so within that, I told myself, I'm not going to try to do things to appease someone that were important for me. So, when it came down to, talking on the phone or the frequency that we saw each other, especially in the beginning, the natural thing is, the lady wants that, so you do more of it. And I just knew how much with my schedule and how much I had to give, what I was willing to do. I wasn't going to try to do more and then it gets scale back once you get her. And so I don't think that was comfortable for her initially. And we had conversations about that, but I wasn't going to bend on that because I needed her to be comfortable with that. Even with time, I said, hey, I'm always going to be someone that's busy. Not that my busy is more important than anybody else, but right. I'm always going to be an active person, whatever my interests are at the moment. And so if the amount of time that I'm giving to those things don't work for you, then this relationship won't work for you. And I was just I prioritized letting her know this was how I operate, and this is not what works for you, then it won't work in the relationship. And that was the standard and the boundaries that I set for myself.
So let me ask you this, so that I'm gonna deviate from our questions for a second, if it's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So
He got canned responses to all these questions. Let's catch him slipping.
You know what I'm saying? We can't let him politician his way through this thing.
Slip from the truth.
So, the podcast, the idea, the implementation, all this spans back to mid 2018.
Yeah, 2018, 2019.
Plus or minus a month, around that time frame. And so, over that time frame, don't get me to line about the numbers, but I mean, you've interviewed, I would say, upwards of 20 married men,
Yep.
right? Plus or minus a few.
We've had a lot of conversations around relationships and marriage.
Yeah, right. Some that you've agreed with, some that you haven't, some that you learned from, some that you didn't, some that were fruitful, some that were not. I'm interested to know kind of, at this point, kind of where you are and getting to this point. Did any of those conversations, those dialogues, those Q&As impact your approach to finding a wife that was different than pre-2018? Or just for the people out there pre-COVID?
No, that's a good question. I don't know that it impacted my approach, but I do think it set me up for success in the relationship.
How so?
Well, I answered the first one. I think most of the guys I married met their wives before like dating apps were not like it didn't have a stigma to it.
Fair, yeah.
And so whatever they were thinking about is like it's like talking to your parents about like your career. It's like they didn't have an option to do that.
I worked there for 40 years.
Yeah, like
retired with my pension.
Just stay in job. Don't move job. Just stay be loyal.
You gonna get promoted.
It's like they don't do pensions no more.
Yeah.
So I think the advice. I think in those conversations as it pertains to dating, the conversation as I remember them were more towards like scenarios. Now that you guys were out of the game. What worked in your dating experience with your person and leading up to that, and then obviously it worked out, so you guys got to the point that you guys are at. But if it didn't work or they didn't make the decisions they make, how would you have responded? So people can see that. For example, if you think about Dorian driving to Houston with his ex and his new girl that he just met.
You ain't have to bring that up again.
I mean,
You ain't have to bring that up again, dog.
we love you, big dog.
You're supposed to leave that in season 2.
Sorry, bro.
But my point is, how she responded to it worked for them, right? It showed him something. Had she responded differently, he would have probably not been with her. And so I don't know that I took much in terms of my dating. In terms of the relationship, I just think I realized, or I heard echoing themes. So the value of communication. If anything, it cemented the fact that no relationship is perfect. There's always going to be something that you're going to deal with or navigate or you don't like that gets on your nerves. So I think things like that just prepare you for what's to come, so you can see the pitch coming in slow and have an idea how you may want to respond in that situation. So I would say I got the most value from that. Probably helped me accelerate the relationship to get to a point. I don't know that if you asked me in 2018 if I would have met someone and proposed to them in 2 years, I would have been like, yeah. And so I think her being who she is and me getting the gems, or at least having, we call it getting gems, I would say even more having the understanding of like what it takes to really sustain these relationships probably allowed me to like do things that only affirmed the direction that we were going and like mitigated stuff that like allows you to take back steps in your relationship.
This episode is sponsored by Nello Effect, a coaching and consulting service that helps people turn mindfulness into action as they navigate the dating world as well as their relationships. Follow on Instagram at nello.effect and find more information in the episode description.
So you talked about the experience and how your interactions on these podcasts, how some of the negative experiences of some of the other individuals that have been on this podcast have affected you. How does age affect you, right? Like we're all 4 dudes sitting here, we're born within a 6-month window. How did that change the calculus of all of this? Right.
So you're asking me how did me getting older?
How did that affect everything? Like you're
not a young woman.
You're born in you're not young no more, right?
If you're being honest, you see your friends get married, and that's like one thing. What you hear is, oh, I got to talk to the boss so I can go out. That's like the themes you get, and then they start having kids, and to me there was an adjustment with my friends that I used to. I won't say we was out, but we used to hang out more often or spend time more often. You see how their priorities shift, where they just can't even if they wanted to, and so then you look at like going outside, and it's like they don't look the same either than it used to. So those shifts.
Shit.
I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't. But I think that probably, I don't know that it impacts it as things you become aware of. I think as my friends started having families, then you start going to things. It's like, oh, they did something, but it was all kids. So you didn't get an invite to it because it was all kids. But I don't know that it in and of itself changed anything for me. I think if I think about timing and where that impacted me, more so, I want to have children where they can experience their grandparents.
Yeah.
So the fact that my parents are getting older, that probably is more of a determining factor for me in decisions than my own personal age.
So like, oh, go ahead. My bad.
No, I was gonna say. So like, I'm hearing the transition in a mental. I guess your the way you address the relationship, the way you address, meeting her and getting to know her.
What's the mental shift?
Yeah.
What do
for you? It was like you were saying, you being more intentional.
I mean,
You were always intentional, but it was like
let's not get it twisted.
That is a mental shift.
It is
It is a mental shift.
It is a shift, but I don't want to get it twisted. Like, well, I had this shift, and then I met her, and this is how I acted. I was talking to other people when we met, and for a while we dated.
Don't confuse like becoming some totally different person.
I'm just trying to clarify that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think it was just like boom, boom.
And in that, there were some girls that it was what it was. We had fun just like I did before I met her. And then some of them, over time, I realized like, okay, it's not gonna work either. So I was, when we first met for a period of time, I was still engaging and talking to other people and all that.
So what's the difference between dating and courting? Like, at what stage
If
did
you guys have listened to the podcast, you know how I feel. I would happily,
Can you refresh
I would happily
us
tell you
on it?
the difference.
So look,
Happily.
let me
Case y'all
ask.
didn't know.
Let me ask this a different
You
question.
should go back and listen to the podcast.
Let me ask it a
Probably
different
say
way.
every other episode.
So let me ask it a different way, because we have talked about this before on the podcast and throughout
Let me
many
just say
years.
this. I said
Okay, go ahead.
by the time I stopped engaging with other people, I was courting my now fiance.
So to that point, so like, you're out there, you're in the apps, whatever, date on Tuesday, whatever, you're figuring it all out, right? You haven't decided one way is better than the other. Like, what came about that you decided that the roster should be trimmed and that this is the person that I'm going to dedicate my time, energy, and everything to? Like, what happened that decision was like, you know what, this is the route I'm going to go?
I don't know if anything in particular happened to, like, in the way you expressed it.
Yeah.
I want to think about, I think there are a lot of different contributing factors. I don't know that I got to a point about how I felt about her until January of the following year,
Okay.
2023. And
I'm going to challenge you on that.
I'll explain what happened there.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I was talking to people until January 2023, but like where I felt heart of heart about that in her. But leading up to it, I think some of it is the more you spend time with someone, you get to know them. And so it's like now, one, you respect how they feel about things. You consider how they feel about things. Two, it's like, okay, you get to the point where we're moving forward in a manner. We may not be at that point, and it's not worth getting caught up in nothing that would mess that up. So then like you slowly stop engaging in the apps, one. And you can control what you do in real life, but the apps you stop engaging, because sometimes you get a like or a match and then you're like, okay, what do I do with it? You get tempted a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think over time, I just stopped adding that temptation of being on the apps.
So let's go back a little bit. So the reason I propose is, we're all married and we all have our stories. We've all done our things.
Ask me the tough
We're going to keep going. Wait till the second round of drinks come in. Hey, don't tell my story.
I'm gonna say this though. I'm gonna say this though. I think you're missing a part, and I think
I'm missing a part?
You're missing a piece, right? And you're not acknowledging.
Okay.
You're not acknowledging that she happened. That she happened, and maybe that's a part of the answer to a lot of the questions,
well, she
right?
has to be
That
part of the answer.
right, but it's her that made you change course in terms of how you were thinking about things.
So
It was her liability,
Can I share
right?
a story?
She is part
Right,
of
but you need to be vocal about be vocal about it, right?
We are the hosts.
And if she were on this podcast, she should say the same thing.
Let me add a story. Let me add.
You was talking
We're a little
about
loud.
mic check.
Okay, and I leaned in a little too much. Sorry about that.
Let me add a story, right? So, February 2023, you and I, with other people,
I know you're going already.
We went on-
That's
we
how long I've known that. That's what I'm gonna say.
because it was a conversation, right?
go for it.
Like we went on,
2023.
Share the
is when we
story.
went on a trip together.
Yes, and when
right.
you stopped
Juliet
planning
was
that trip.
present, and you called me in probably late summer, August, September ish, and was like, "Hey, likelihood that I can get a +1. And you and I's conversation wasn't long because I'm not gonna ask you all the details. I was basically like, hey, like a real +1, or like you just trying to bring something, right? And he was like, no, hold it for me. I'll keep you posted. This was August, September-ish of the year prior, right? Now, you just talked about, kind of, making it, for all intents and purposes, right? Making it official or whatever, June 2023. For me,
Who said that?
January.
I didn't make it official. I said for me, I felt like
It's COVID, man. All these years.
we never had a conversation of which
Okay, that's fine, right? I've known
We
you
can talk about that too, but
right. I've known you a very, very long
Yeah.
time, right? You and I've known each other a long time, and multiple relationships, vice versa, all the thing. Something happened in August, right? That because you wouldn't have called me about that with anybody.
Well, let me put it this way. I'll say, in the fall of 2022, yeah, I felt comfortable about where we were tracking, and as a planner, if there's a trip coming up, it wasn't like I called you out the blue, Paul, and said like, hey, Paul, this is somebody that might be
Well,
important.
no, hold up. It was kind of out of a blue because at the time I did not know about her at the time.
But I knew. But I'm saying I called you because of the trip.
Fair, yeah.
So because I knew there was a trip, and we've been on these trips before, where I was in the dungeon room because I was single. I wanted to make sure that if
Don't do me like that. I'm at A1.
It wasn't
top
your
supply
fault.
security.
It was a closet. It was a closet, bro.
It wasn't your fault, but because I knew that, like, hey, if I'm planning for the future, and I'm a planner, I'm a consultant, I think about things in the future. If we are moving at the same rate that we're moving now, she is someone during that time. One, I would like to be on a trip, and like if we went on a trip and she wasn't there, it might look some kind of way. She may feel some kind of way. So because of that, I said, hey, Paul, I might need a spot.
This is what our conversation was.
I think you asked me, oh, is this your girlfriend now? And I said, I don't know about all that, but I think she might be around then. So again, was I feeling confident about the direction we're moving in? Yes. But again, it wasn't like I felt in...
So this is why I proposed it, right? Like, we've been places before.
Yeah.
We've done things throughout the years. And now my memory could be foggy. I got 2 kids. It gets like that
I
sometimes.
never asked about somebody.
Facts.
See? I didn't know what he was going to say. We have not had a trip where I was talking to someone either.
You can say you know where I'm going because you know it's a fair question.
Right.
Right? There's 2 different things, right? Like, you know it's a fair question.
Yeah. Well,
This is something we had never talked
But
about.
think about prior to A&M, I talked to people, and there's a young lady that was...
We open up this book?
Move on to the next one.
There's a young lady
Well.
I like a lot. And we had a
Insert the
relationship.
DMX song.
Yeah. In living in Houston, traveling, all that, I didn't have like a serious girlfriend because I was studying for grad school. I was traveling all the time. Then grad school, coming out of grad school, I had probably my first real adult, like grown adult relationship. We didn't go on any trips and do anything during that period of time. After that, we broke up for a while. Before my next girlfriend, we went on a trip. You had kids during that window, so then we didn't. There wasn't a trip to go on.
True.
So it wasn't like It's funny because people will say, who was that said something like, oh no. So Terrence we went to you were there. We went on a boat trip. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
I forgot. We tried to go on a boat.
Austin or whatever?
No, this is here. We just did,
On the lake.
Did you get
Labor
invited?
Day?
No, I didn't.
Labor Day. or
Just
whatever.
check. Just check. I ain't either.
I mean, the boat has limited seats. You know what I mean?
It ain't for everybody. It ain't for
It was a
everybody.
small boat. It was a small
It's cool.
Yeah, and so Juliet came on it, and Ashley basically like, hey, Chidozi, do I need to remember her name or something like that?
Right.
Is she important? Do I need to remember her name? As if I bring a lot of women out to our friend group. And I said, outside of Paul, most the friends, that's because we live like down the street from each other.
Yeah,
most
we
friends
lived across the street
I
at the
didn't
time.
bring them up unless it was serious, right?
Yeah.
So like, I use her as an example, as if like I brought women around all the time to like.
So
maybe that's why it stands out now that I mentioned her name, right?
Yeah, so I think my experience obviously is a little different because there was definitely a season where you and I lived across the
But
street from each other.
you saw
right?
all of them.
Sorry.
You saw all of them. You saw the pick up the drop offs, the walk to the house. You saw all of them.
Everything in between, right? We lived together for a period.
Yeah,
we
you
lived
saw-
across the street from each other for a
You
period.
Paul to pull up.
So my experience.
You saw before I put it Austin. Paul was the third man on
Facts.
the day.
Facts. Right? Facts. Right? So my experience with you is a
That was
lot
a funny
different.
date.
But yes, very funny. We can do that in B-roll.
Nah, we don't need to do that.
But having had all these experiences with you over the years, I knew when you called me, I knew something was different, right? Because I had been around for, pick a name, doesn't matter. You can fill in whoever you want to in the titles over a 20-year period, right? Of that you wouldn't have called me even with XYZ coming down the pipeline, be it a crawfish boil, be it a holiday party, be it anything. And so what I'm poking at, and maybe it is nothing.
No,
maybe it's absolutely nothing. But there was something that was different.
Let me answer it this way. I think if you remember, I said, "Hey, I was approaching relationships. You better drink somebody."
I like, hold on, no.
Cut him off.
I'm gonna need that.
Cut him off.
No, I will say this: if I was approaching relationships in the way that I was before, prior to, like I said, I took a break and I started to do things differently. By that time, we met in April for the first time. By August, September, that fall, she probably would be my girlfriend at the moment. So it wouldn't have been like this thing to say, "Hey, Chidozi's asking about his girlfriend to go on this trip," right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing the labels and titles things at that point in time.
Right.
But all of us have had girlfriends, even your wives, that you were with her officially as your girlfriend. You may not felt the way like, oh, this is about to be my wife. So like in the next year, December experiences that we had in December and January, I felt like, oh, this person could potentially be my wife. So that's why I say like it wasn't different, because the only difference is y'all didn't have a title. This is my girlfriend that I'm asking about.
So I don't know.
You said you don't know about titles.
No. It's not even about the titles. Go ahead, B.
I'm just saying she did. Before you go, I'm just saying that had we had the conversation and I was doing like the traditional way of doing it. So you knew her as my girlfriend, right? Me saying, Paul, can I get a spot for Juliet? Wouldn't have been like, whoa, what's different here, right? Because she already has a title. But if it comes off like this girl that you're kind of talking to, why is he holding the spot for this person, right?
When did it feel different though? When was it different, right? Like where you right? But you are going through the manipulations of talking about when she was my girlfriend and all of that. Like you are playing those games, right?
Like, it's
you're
so
walking
very
around it,
direct.
right?
It's
So
an alcohol
so
thing, y'all.
no. So when
married men,
when was in your head? When was something different? Where you said
in December and January, like what do you?
No, you're not answering the question. Paul got it.
So like,
Maybe a day they don't count.
we are grown. We pass these lives, but like you take any group of guys, brothers, friends, frat brothers, whatever, and you zoom them back 15 years, 20 years, right? And if we were sitting here at the table right now and so-and-so was talking to XYZ girl, he would be like, hey, bro, she off limits. For whatever reason, right? It was understood, hey, he might not have said that that's his girlfriend, but there was something there that said, nah, y'all leave that one alone, and everybody would respect that decision. And so I think what we're poking at is, like, we're saying, all right, January, okay, cool, that's fine. You could say whatever you want to at that point. But we recognize, we saw from outside, just looking in, not being in y'all's day-to-day.
Something was
different. Something was different.
And so, about her or
you,
all aspects of
her and your interactions with her.
So she was on the boat with us that day. Was like, whoa, this is different.
You have to like, in any situation where your wife, there's something about the person. So that to me, that's a default. Like I told you what I love about her and what I appreciate. So there are obviously characteristics that I saw in her that I liked and appreciated.
So let me interject for a second. I think a consistency. Now to say, I'm not gonna sit here and lie on myself and say that I've listened incomplete to every episode that's happened. Because some of them I just don't finish my drive. I finish my drive for the episode finishes, and it happens. But I have listened to both of y'all gentlemen's full episodes. You didn't get 3, you should have.
I got 2.
But you only got 2. But we can have that.
Should have got 3.
He ain't know how to edit back then, right?
The goal is to have one, and then I realized, okay, these are meaty conversations.
You gotta keep them going, right?
I think Chris said it's time to go.
I think consistently, like there's a point with all these men across the board, like before they proposed, before she knew, before his boys knew, where he was like, that's it. Right? For me, and I'll go back and you want to go.
I know your answer. She was drunk. You ain't take care of her.
Yeah,
you don't take care of
because
her.
it's on wax.
Yes, I understand.
It's on wax.
I had a conversation with you.
But like that incident happened probably a year and a half, 2 years before I proposed.
Yeah, man. What was the period between from when you met her to then?
Maybe like 6 months,
So
8 months.
We're talking about I met her in April. You're talking about 4
Yeah,
months
but
later.
you're comparing my 25-year-old self to your 36-year-old self. Those are not the same.
I'll give you a scenario for me. The scenario for me was where we were visiting my family, my grandmother's birthday in Louisiana, and she just like, she worked with everybody. Like everybody was cool with her. She was making up conversation. She appeared interested, and I was like, oh, she's different.
I understand.
Right.
And
And
my question to you is, are you trying to find out about when it happened or the experience that occurred?
We're exploring.
I can tell you what the experience was, but it just didn't happen when the timeline you want me to tell you. Like, I can't change it. There's an experience that happened.
I just think I just think there's more to. You wouldn't have called me about a spot on that trip about anybody.
I'm just saying, like, we never had a conversation.
Who are you talking
Me and Jure about.
I'm not talking about titles. Like I don't care about that.
But what I'm saying is, if I meet someone and in 4 months I'm asking you about a trip that's happening, 5 months later, right? This person is my girlfriend. Like we've established that for the public, right? It doesn't come off like, who is this girl that he's invited on this trip so far in advance? So to me, I think where it looks different is because I wasn't outwardly saying, hey, this is my girlfriend at that time.
So backstory on this, just on the trip, and then Jomar, you take over from there. You called me, you and I talked. I said, cool, I'll hold the spot. But
I'll keep you posted.
You keep me posted, right? That was kind of the end of our conversation.
It wasn't very deep,
right?
It wasn't like, Paul, I have all these feelings for someone. Like,
right. It wasn't none of that. Like, and I said, all right, bet. Keep me posted. Don't string me out to,
I was like, what do you need to know about?
Right. And I gave the date, and you said, all right, cool, right? And like how most husbands do, I hung up. I said, Chidozie got a girlfriend, right?
Yep. I learned husbands gossip more than women.
I said, Chidozie got a girlfriend.
Shit.
And she was like, what? I was like, he just asked to bring somebody on this trip.
Which was like partially true. It's like partially true. And then the girls go talk.
Chidozie asked about a +1.
then he goes around the rumor mill and they play telephone with each other. Yep. By the time Jomar hears it, so I heard you about to propose to somebody.
You engaged already? I don't even know what
Hey, we got together for brunch and it just came up the topic. I don't know what to tell you. Right? Yeah. But people outside looking, and we can move on.
No, but I said
we can move on.
What I'm saying is I can understand how people outside looking in
saw something different.
Yes, and what I'm saying, and partially because it wasn't like, hey, here's my girlfriend. Like it was this girl that I'm talking to, and I'm asking for these things that I normally wouldn't ask for a girl that I'm talking to, right? Because if I was in the experience that you've seen, that person would have been my girlfriend. I think what you guys are not factoring in is that I said, hey, I'm operating differently than I normally operate. Me and Jure never had a conversation. The only time I really gave her was my fiance. Like, because up until like maybe a few months before I proposed, I started saying girlfriend because I was sick of y'all telling me, she your girlfriend, yes, she your girlfriend, yes, she your girlfriend.
I mean,
so hold on. So I think you're speaking in project plan, right? You're speaking in these sequential steps that you go through to get to a conclusion. You start at a point, right, and then you get to a point. But in reality, relationships are not always that. Sometimes you're on step 3, and then it's like, okay, this is the one, and we need to move to step 7. Bam, this is it. And so you're not speaking to. You're speaking to the project plan. This whole theory you have in your mind about how everything is supposed to work.
I'm speaking
and in reality, it don't always work like that.
Doesn't.
And it never works like that. When you come across someone that you love.
Can I dumb down what he's trying to say?
Say it in English.
Like the English is like, you have always been a person that plans, right? And like, though, as you approach this opportunity, relationship, whatever progression with Jure, you want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we are recognizing that you may have been at 6, even though you and Jure may have been at 2.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? No.
I don't know what I would have to ask you a question.
Well, 6 is the number 6 is irrelevant.
Sure.
But like, you mentally were at a space where like, hey, like, if the stars aligned on this Tuesday of the Lord's year 17, like you might have proposed December 2022, right? I'm not saying that you would have.
I think you guys. I think you guys are reading way more into this. We're gonna talk about this more, but we gotta take a break because they need some water. Clearly, they need some water. But
I
you
got
guys
some
don't
questions.
forget
Just
what we're going to
warm
talk
it
about. And if you want to know more about what my answer will be and what I was thinking and when I really was going to propose, make sure you tune in next week to hear my answer to when I was going to propose and more about the story and whatever random ass questions they're going to ask me.
They gonna be
We're
real.
just going off the list.
That's what they say. None of those questions were on the list. But what I will say is make sure you subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and follow on Instagram at Think Love Wife. And until next time, you know what it is. I hope the conversation keeps going.